Wanted to play this clip that President Trump posted this morning, January 5th, rather.
Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple. If you and I have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts is morally right, we'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Every time that I look in the mirror, all these lines in my face getting clearer. The past is gone, it went by like dust to dawn. Isn't that the
as long as the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve. The best is yet to come.
Best is yet to come. That's why I'm going to risk a strike on YouTube to play some Frank Sinatra. The best is yet to come. Hopefully you can hear it out there. I have my Spotify channel muted so I can listen to anything that's in the browser here. Okay, so we have... And apparently Trump deleted that tweet. I don't know why. Maybe a copyright issue? I don't know. Wow, what a day. January 6th, huh? 3 years. Can you believe it's already been 3 years? I mean, I woke up and it's been a celebration all day. People just ramming about, the fact that some of this evidence has been released, that there's been evidence related to the entrapment release, that the FBI informants and agents, the undercover assets in the crowd that day have finally been not necessarily identified, but they've been, vaguely, abstractly sort of exposed to the extent that, and I hear a lot of people debating. I saw the ridiculous Zero Hedge debate with Krassenstein brothers, some dude named Dougal, Glenn Greenwald, Alex Jones, and then what's his name from Revolver.news. And what struck me about the whole thing is that they're like there's so many missing pieces of information. The evidence related to the sealed undercover assets inside the Capitol that day, as well as in the crowd, have all been sealed by the federal court system. The federal court system is captured. There's already been a soft coup, all right? And the federal judges, and really most of the state court judges as well, are basically like the Krassenstein brothers. They're just very low IQ people, and they're not communicative, they're not articulate, they have no energy, they're all partisans, political hacks, and to a large degree, in fact, I think that the federal court system actually might be worse than a lot of the state court systems. And they're always talking about all these things, but the thing about the federal court system is everything is able to be secreted, okay? And so when these defense attorneys have filed motions during whatever discovery scheme that they have with that particular case, they have been able to get some evidence, but it's all been sealed. And to use an entrapment defense in those cases would require, motion practice. And the issue is that generally speaking, the government will come in, try and swoop in, and they'll file motions to effectively eliminate that defense for that defendant. All right. So, and then, these federal judges typically, 90% of the time, probably higher than that, will grant the government whatever it wants. So you have that rigged court system that you're up against, and the fact that everything is secret. And I that's one issue. I think that it kind of came out, but I don't think it came out and explained with that level of detail. The other issue here too, before we get into that, is the Laura Loomer stuff. Now, Nimarata Nikki Haley, called the cops on your girl Loomer today.
Might as well just record this. What's the problem though? We're here for an event. Like, I'm just standing here.
I'm asking you to leave.
I mean, like, this is a presidential campaign event, right? Can you just explain to me, like, why you're asking me? Why?
9 million views on
Can you just
this?
explain to me like why you're asking me to leave?
Because they want you to leave.
Why?
It's private property, miss.
Right, but it's
Please
an
move.
event. I'm standing here. Like, what's
I mean, how ridiculous and outrageous is this? And, you know, I want to know who this guy is. This guy right here, the cuck dude right here. This cuck dude right here. This guy is such a fucking faggot. For sitting here calling the cops on Laura Loomer, I would be outraged. I'd be smashing this shit in his face. The fact that this fucking clown is sitting there with this kind of dour face, looking as if his actions are justified. It's outrageous. I mean, this is a public event. This is a presidential candidate, Nikki Haley. I mean, that's almost more insulting to call Nikki Haley or Nimrata a presidential candidate, considering how corrupt she is and how much dark money she's taking. And then you have a campaign manager, a campaign aide, whoever this guy is, anybody on X or whatever should do a deep dive on him and figure out what the hell's going on here. Because, you know, like, it's one thing if he wasn't responsible for it and Nikki Haley called it in, but if you're the campaign manager and you're actually conspiring with Nikki Haley to kick journalists out of a public event, and yeah, Laura Loomer, you know, might get disruptive. This is Laura Loomer. If she does, you know, let Loomer up on stage. Answer the questions. I mean, you got to be challenged. If you're Nikki Haley, I don't get it. You know, geez, I mean, I have no respect for this fucking clown right here. I mean, these are the kinds of pussies who really do get their ass kicked. Because if he did this to someone and it was, you know, an equal sort of pairing, and it was, and by the way, he's doing this to a woman. All right. So it's actually even worse. But man, I mean, I think you settle this stuff outside with this guy.
campaign? Why? I'm sitting here. I signed up for the event.
I told you. That's all I was advised. And now I'm asking you to move from the premises, please.
What's the point of having town halls if you're just going to kick people out?
I mean, that's a valid question. What is the point of having a Q&A town hall with residents presumably from Iowa, in whatever county this is? I mean, they're similar to people from Wisconsin or Minnesota, but they're a little different, of course, because it's Iowa. But why not just respect journalists? You know, I mean, Trump lets journalists into his rallies, right? You know.
She wants to be the first female president, and she's kicking a woman out of her event.
I'm not here to answer questions. If you have any comments or concerns, you can contact them.
Well, I mean,
I'm here to do security, so please move.
you guys.
He does look guilty here, doesn't he? He looks kind of like a little boy who's done something wrong, and he's like looking for his mommy, and then he's looking at Laura Loomer. It's crazy.
Sent me an email. I got your text.
He's really a little faggot. I mean, I'm gonna get struck on YouTube for saying that, but fuck the censorship. I can't stand it anymore.
Blast, and it said to sign up for the event. So what is the issue?
I'm asking you nicely,
Well, I think I'm asking pretty nicely as well.
and I don't have answers for you. I'm sorry. I just got advised that you must leave the premises, and that's why I'm here. So I apologize. Thank you.
The best is yet to come.
Anti-woman.
Anti-woman for sure.
Have a nice day.
For sure. I don't know what Nikki Haley's angle is, honestly, because if anything, she has destroyed any credibility that she has. And I'm being totally honest. I mean, Nikki Haley served in the first Trump administration. First, I can't remember her role, but then she served as the ambassador to the UN. You know, she's Indian. Her real name is Nimrata, some Indian last name that's difficult to pronounce for an American. And she's not Christian, really. I mean, maybe she is, maybe she's converted, but she still practices Sikh. ceremonies, and maybe that's a family thing. Who am I to judge? I'm not here judging that. But she's Nikki Haley, like, okay, she's an attractive woman and she's very articulate. Okay, got it. No one is saying that Nikki Haley is stupid. Well, actually, a lot of people are. I'm going to correct myself. That's right. Bird brain Nikki Haley. The Civil War question that she completely spaced on. She's from South Carolina. You think that she would know that. I mean, the whole reason for the Civil War was because the North was using a soft embargo against the South, and then slavery became kind of that morally reprehensible thing that kind of was the final straw that broke the camel's back and caused the Civil War to break out. That would have been a very succinct, concise answer that I think Nikki Haley could have communicated clearly. Now, was it a gotcha moment? Maybe a little bit, but and maybe she was tired doing a lot of things. So, but they've kind of set the, whenever I'm streaming, sometimes I forget the correct phrasing for things, and then afterwards, when I'm thinking about what I said, I'm like, oh yeah, I should have phrased it that way. They set the tone for, what we just saw here with Laura Loomer. Like, I was like, okay, well, she doesn't, okay. I mean, she has no chance, right? She's got like 0% polling, maybe 1% in this primary thing in Iowa. And I know that Vivek has annihilated her in any of these debates, right? Vivek has picked her out because they're both Indian. So he feels a little more comfortable doing so. Vivek is much more intelligent than Nikki Haley, so it's easy for him to do this. Plus, he has less, Nikki Haley tried the American sort of white male thing on Vivek, saying, oh, well, how dare you say these like abusive things to a woman? And if that was a white American male, God knows what would happen. He'd probably get arrested, but it's Vivek and he's Indian, so he's fine, Point here is that Nikki Haley, her true colors just showed. I have zero respect, honestly, unless that individual poses a very serious security issue. And I'm talking like, valid, legitimate. But throwing a journalist out, Laura Loomer, who's a bona fide journalist. I mean, she worked at InfoWars. She ran for Congress. She almost beat Frankel down in West Palm Beach. And she won the Republican primary to run against the Democrat incumbent down there in West Palm Beach. It's a very elderly sort of Jewish area. And Frankel just happens to be an elderly Jew. And so she, I think Loomer got like 40 or 45% of the vote, and it's not bad for that particular district. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. The issue here is that Laura Loomer is a bona fide journalist. She has a right to be there. And, Nikki Haley just kicks her out, and then the campaign manager, or whoever that guy was, the campaign aide, is just totally fine with it. There is something seriously wrong with society that we continue to have this censorship operation. And like, what planet has Nikki Haley been on for the past 10 years? Where you can't really say, especially if you're a white male, you can't say anything without, this deep state surveillance operation trying to arrest you or censor you or block you or strike you on YouTube. The whole MAGA movement, in many ways, and it may not be its primary focus, but it's certainly one part of the entire sort of, quote, MAGA movement, is ending this censorship that we've all been under. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. When I saw it, and I had a lot more respect for Laura Loomer. I mean, look, Laura Loomer, I really do like what she's done, but seeing this and how I think, Laura Loomer handled this very well, asked some really pointed questions, some good questions. Obviously she was prepared for this, but she handled it very well. And she promoted it and she captured it on camera. It was great. The only thing that really, I'm sure people say the same thing about me when I am a little bit too outspoken. Laura Loomer, especially with women, she really, really goes after them, and I can't read it because it gets so harsh. And if it's hard for me to read, I mean, it must be really harsh because I'm pretty outspoken, to be honest with you, when it comes to actually, like, when I have time to think about it and write it. And yeah, so anyways, Laura Loomer. The hell's, oh yeah. Switching gears a little bit, mixing it up. We got your boy, John Campea, the star of the channel Campea Exposed, the best channel on the internet. So I thought it was a shtick. The Campea Exposed channel said that John Campea, and it was parody, by the way, had died. And then they showed the picture of Campea in the hospital and seeking attention because he's not feeling well. Poor John, he's not feeling well. Oh no. And then he posts this video 8 hours ago. Now this is a nearly 9-minute video. It's about the same period of time that they've alleged that Derek Chauvin's knee was on George Floyd's neck. And this whole video is about Campea's breathing problems. Okay? Now, again, I don't want to lessen the illness that John Campea is experiencing. I do kind of feel bad for him. I'm sympathetic. I have empathy. But I've seen so much John Campea bullshit and him treating people like shit and basically stealing money from super chatters and all the crazy stuff that he's pushed. I mean, he pushes this Disney woke bullshit. So yeah, I mean, like, my respect for John Campea is pretty low. He said that he was training with MMA fighters, mixed martial arts, MMA, like elite MMA athletes. So he made it appear as though he was at that fitness level, but here he looks terrible. He looks, I've seen him a lot over the years, over the past like 2 years probably. He has never looked this bad right now that he looks. And the other weird thing is he's at a pool and he's wearing a hoodie. Like he's cold, like his body, his immune system is all jacked up. And we know this is, going around. People are having a lot of, breathing issues, heart attacks, strokes, a lot of young people are having them, right? So, my suspicion here is that Campea really likes, and again, I don't want to get a strike on YouTube, so I got to be careful. He really likes the mainstream media. And he likes listening he likes listening to everything, and he likes doing what he's told. Let's just play a little bit of this.
Hey guys, John here, and
Look, sounds
wow,
terrible.
this is
Wow.
what outside looks like. Other than
Coughing.
going to the hospital and then
Okay, so here, this is a valid question. I don't know. I grew up in Minnesota, all right? I come from, I was raised by a single mother, right? I have siblings. I don't know if it's part of the way that I was raised, my family dynamic, or the community that, I hate the word community, the area that I grew up in, whatever. I don't know what it is, but I was always told that you know, like if you're sick or whatever, like don't bring attention onto yourself. Like if you've achieved something, don't make a big deal out of it. Don't bring attention to yourself, you know, kind of just blend in is the sense that I got from everything I was kind of told growing up. And that is kind of a Midwestern thing. It's the call. And the other thing is, like, if someone is genuinely trying to wrong you, you need to make sure that you right that wrong. And you need to take a stand. And so that's kind of also, I mean, it's part of the type of people who immigrated to this area too, who are also like this, but it's very passive aggressive. Like if someone fucks you over, boom, like there's a switch. Otherwise, you're just totally nice to that, you know, easygoing, but, you know, down to business. Don't waste time. Hardworking, very hardworking. I've never met, honestly, and I've met a lot of people. I've worked in a lot of different areas. I've worked on a lot of different projects. I have never met people who are more hardworking than people from, generally speaking, this area, like Minnesota. Not the new immigrants that came in, but just, you know, generational sort of Minnesotans. And to some degree, those people in Western Wisconsin, and more specifically, like my family. I've honestly never met anybody who works harder than some of the people in my family. And I'm not being biased. I really am not. I'm talking about, and me too, like maybe not in all things, but in my narrow interests that I have, everyone's like, we've never seen anybody work harder than you. Honestly, like hands down. But I don't even know if that's true, because obviously, you know, like I'm biased because this is the life I live. People in my family, like they're just constantly working, and they're like very competent at what they do. Like I'm amazed, because I'll call them up and I'm like, hey, you know, what do I do here? So, anyways, I'm not trying to brag. I'm really not. Obviously that was bragging, but, with Campea, I always get into these tangents. With Campea, like, I would never consider posting a video on YouTube about me being sick, other than saying, like, on a stream, like, oh yeah, I have a cold, or reasonably explaining something if you need to. Oh yeah, or if you die, or if you're like very seriously ill, like I can't do this because I'm very seriously ill. Don't bring attention to this. Like, what is this guy doing? And he's from Canada, by the way. I think he's from Toronto. Like, the Canadians are generally kind of similar. And he's trying to like make a fucking big deal out of this thing. It's crazy.
Coming back from the hospital, this is my first time outside in about over 5
Fucking
days.
loser.
So, yeah, I thought I'd make a quick little
I
video.
hate saying that too, because
now that I can
you
talk
have
a
to
little
have
bit,
empathy for him too, right?
and give you a little bit of an update as to what happened.
So he spends 6 minutes talking about poor John Campea. He doesn't mention his family, other than the fact that they ditched him in the hospital. He doesn't say, you know, oh, you know, I was sick and I was unable to take care of my wife, or I feel so bad for my animals or my dogs or something, because I wasn't there to take care of them. Like, it's all about John Campea, king narcissist. So if you dig deeper into this video, somewhere in here around 6 minutes, I think he actually finally gets to the point of why he's actually sick, and he said that he had a viral infection. Now, again, a 9-minute video. Now, his channel, he's got 325,000 subscribers. It's a lot, you know? He had a run during the pandemic, but as you can see, it's gone downhill very, very quickly for John Campea. He was getting, easily like 700,000 or 800,000 views during the pandemic, and now he's lucky to get 30,000 views. Now this is, I shouldn't brag, you know, really. I mean, for this low quality amateur shit stream that I have, and I don't do it to get views. I really don't. I do it because I have free time. I enjoy talking. And I also don't want the media to misrepresent who I am, because that's been a constant issue over the past 10 years. It's mainly really about that. And so, yeah, we got 5,000 views, 10,000 views, yada, yada, yada. We got your boy. Speaking of viral infections, let's hear from pedophile Alan Dershowitz, who has now been confirmed to be in a lot of these Epstein leaked documents that came out in the past 3 or 4 days.
Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you? No right not to be vaccinated, meaning if they...
Now, this is a constitutional scholar, current or former professor at Harvard Law School.
decide you have to be vaccinated, we have to be vaccinated?
He's also a pedophile.
Absolutely. And if
Alan, you can sue me if you want.
you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm.
He'll probably threaten to sue and file some bullshit defamation lawsuit, and it'll just get Streisand out because Dershowitz was on Epstein Island. Apparently, well, I should let me rephrase it. I actually don't know that. If there's pictures of Dershowitz there, then that would change my opinion. So I don't want to make misstatements considering the fact that he's so litigious. But man, he's been named a lot in those docs, hasn't he?
If the vaccination
Where is that in the Constitution?
is to prevent, if the vaccination is designed
He's a constitutional scholar, remember.
to prevent the spreading disease. If the vaccination is only to prevent a disease that you will get, for example, if there's a disease that will kill you, you have the right to refuse that, but you have no right to refuse to be vaccinated against.
This is like his speech to Goys that he practices at Temple.
A
You have no rights.
contagious disease. Public health, the police power of the Constitution.
Fucking asshole. Enough of Alan Dershowitz. Speaking of your boy,
We're learning more about Defense
Oh my
Secretary Lloyd
God.
Austin's time in the hospital.
speaking of your boy Alan Dershowitz, we gotta zoom this out so we can actually see it. Boop, boop. No, we gotta zoom it up. We gotta zoom more. No, this stupid view. The hell? Pissing me off. There we go. Gotta switch the view, checking the comments. We don't have anyone watching. Wow, on Rumble at least. Usually we have like 10 people watching on Rumble. Checking. Check. I am so censored on YouTube. I mean, they have like some FISA court order to just censor and surveil everything. It's crazy. They withheld a bunch of evidence from me recently regarding their censorship operation against me. So speaking of that, and I just want to be very clear, and I haven't spoken about this because technically I don't want to get into the gist of it, but previously, I'm trying to find what the hell. Okay, so I was being polite to a friend who had asked me not to speak about any of my legal issues on stream. All right, and that's why I've never talked about them generally. I mean, I've maybe have accidentally broached the subject a couple times. But that agreement has sort of evaporated or eroded. So I'm a little looser now, but again, I don't want to bring undue attention to it, to create sort of any negative energy and anything like that. But so just to be very clear though, there are state and federal gag orders on me over the past 10 years that have ordered, and they're all sealed, by the way, that have ordered me that anything I do online, I have to use my full real name. Why? Obviously so they can track me, duh. But that is part of what I've been ordered to do. And so anything I do online, that's why I have to use, like, the YouTube channel has to have my name on it, but I can have additional channels if it's the same content, right? So that's how this censorship pattern works with someone like me. Now, if you compare that to, I'm talking, we were just talking about Alan Dershowitz. I don't mean to switch gears too quickly here. I'm all over the place, aren't I? Let's finish this about your boy Robert. I kind of feel like that debate today with the Zero Hedge with Alex Jones and those idiots, the Krasenstein brothers, and then Dougal or whatever his name was. It was a TKO, all right? It was a TKO. It's right here. No, it's right here. No, where the hell did you go? It's right here. It was a TKO in the first, 15 minutes that I was watching it. And then from then on, I was kind of like, whatever. But it was sort of rigged because, look, these weaklings on the left, they're significantly younger than the three dudes on the right? Like Alex Jones. God, I have his name on the tip of my tongue. And then Glenn Greenwald, right? So, these are like experienced. Glenn Greenwald's an attorney, graduated from NYU. Alex Jones is totally dominant in any sort of vocal contest, challenge, debate, whatever you want to call it. So that's going to be impossible to get by. And then, what's his name from Revolver.news? And I apologize for forgetting his name. And I swear I have it on the tip of my tongue. Absolutely zero disrespect. He raised some really interesting points. Now, this dude right here, Dougal, was the most arrogant asshole that I've ever seen. Now, I quickly checked, and he did some practice debate with Nick Rokita, who I watched 10 or 15 minutes of it. This fucking asshole, Dougal, was eating wings on a stream. How rude and disrespectful and arrogant is that to your audience, to your viewers? And the stream had a couple 100,000 views. Like, if I saw some asshole like this eating during a stream and it wasn't like, I don't know, one bite, or it was like full on eating wings, I'm turning off. Like, what kind of person does that? He did it in a way to show that he has absolutely no respect for Nick Rokita. If I was Nick Rokita at that moment, I would have just said, all right, dude, see ya, bye. Because it was a debate. It was like, it wasn't a casual, friendly thing, all right? But anyways, we could talk about this forever, but it's really stupid. I took a bunch of fucking notes, and really it's just kind of worthless to get through. But I think that, obviously, technically speaking, who's a winner of the debate? It was all rigged because it's in Alex Jones's studio, and he was nice enough, generous enough to host the Krasenstein brothers as well as Dougal, and they treated him like shit. I don't know where they're. I guess the Krasenstein brothers are from Palm Beach, somewhere in Florida, and then Dougal, whoever the fuck he is, wherever he's from. I don't know if it's Generation Z or what, but so I don't know. The principles I was raised on, if someone invites you to their studio in this kind of situation, you would never disrespect them at all in a debate like this. You would never like personally attack them. And they're sitting in his studio getting a ton of free media coverage, and they're taking shots, cheap shots, totally cheap shots at Alex Jones talking about Sandy Hook, and they agreed before the debate. No Sandy Hook bullshit. You know, personal attacks are fine, but these are the, you know, subjects that are kind of off limits because they always go back to the Sandy Hook bullshit. And they brought that up, and then they called, Dougal called Glenn Greenwald basically a has-been, washed up journalist. What? I mean, look, I had a lot more respect for Glenn Greenwald after this, and I thought that, you know, I've watched some of Greenwald's system update or system reset stream, which I think is a stupid name, but I've watched it. I don't think Greenwald is as good as he is when there are other people there, because he did an excellent job, I think, kind of like bouncing off. And he's a good pairing with a couple other guys like this. And it was like, oh, this is like vintage Glenn Greenwald. And it is hard hosting your own stream without a bunch of guests or something. I get it. But I was like, this is like the Glenn Greenwald from 10 or 15 years ago during the Edward Snowden leaks. You know, and calling Greenwald a washed up journalist who gave up his career working in New York in order to help leak as a journalist the Snowden stuff regarding Echelon, regarding Five Eyes, and a lot of the other spying that, you know, also impacts the FISA court, which we touched on earlier. They 99% chance have an order on me, and, you know, to surveil basically anything I do. That's why everything on YouTube is all jacked up. Like, I can't delete comments. Everything I do is basically like archived. Anyways, I don't want to even get into that. It was a cheap shot from Dougal to say that to Glenn, and he got pissed. Actually, he's like, I'm out of here, which I thought was a really smart move. So I have a lot more respect for Glenn Greenwald. I think, if anything, if you want to call a winner here, technically, obviously, it was Alex Jones, but I thought the overall winner, like, just if you take the pure dominance of the vocal activity and the actual arguments, if you kind of take that away and just talk about, like, I don't know, the energy, the aura, it's Glenn Greenwald. But I did like the fact that they brought in some different views. I just think that it was kind of rigged. They need, you know, someone who basically is a similar age and experience level as Alex Jones, because Dougal, what is he, like 25, 26? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And he hosts a stream, and he's been streaming for 2 years. I mean, and then I watched the Rakita stuff. He doesn't know anything about the legal system. He's never been exposed to it. And even Alex Jones, I mean, Alex Jones has been talking to a lot of lawyers over the past 30 years. Alex Jones just went through this, I don't even know what you want to call it, tyrannical judicial operation against him. And the bankruptcy regarding free speech systems as well. So Alex Jones knows how captured, and, you know, I talk about the judiciary being kind of already soft cooed, which they have been. AJ knows that. And a lot of other people know that, but these guys don't. And they're talking about January 6th. And Clay Higgins, congressman from Louisiana, who's on the oversight committee and had access to a bunch of evidence from the January 6th tapes. There's a bunch of digital evidence that hasn't been released yet, not just documentation and stuff and records. And for the first time, he came out and said that there were at least, he said minimum, he said that he was trying to be extremely conservative, 200 undercover FBI agents in the crowd, but more importantly, there were FBI, he called them assets, inside the Capitol before any of the entrances were breached, meaning, and they were dressed as Trump supporters. And apparently these FBI assets knew the Capitol in and out, because it is distorting when you get in there and you kind of get confused where you're at and where to go and so forth. And they knew how to basically lead, the protesters who came in into specific offices like leadership offices, Pelosi's office, into the inner Senate chamber, through Statutory Hall. That dropped on Tucker Carlson's X account earlier today, this afternoon. And then this debate happened several hours later, but the Krassenstein brothers were actually trying to claim, regardless, I mean, this evidence has already been out there for a long time, that there weren't any sort of like undercover, quote, assets in the crowd before. And it wasn't just that. I mean, they were there long before that. I mean, this whole thing was, and this is what I've been talking about softly, because I got to be very careful in what I say. I don't want to get tangled up in a lot of bullshit. I mean, I've been alluding to it. I've been trying to drop hints here and there. And, I titled the stream, "What Military Officers Failed to Call for Additional National Guard Troops that day?" Was it Milley? Because Milley refused Trump's request and refused to take appropriate actions, just generally speaking, to put more guard troops at the Capitol that day. What other military officers in that chain of command also are responsible for failing to call for additional troops that undermined, either intentionally or unintentionally, engineered the entrapment here? We could talk about that for a long, long time, because I can tell you what I would do if I was, say, I don't know, even if I was an aide to General Milley, all right? I would, I would repeatedly email, I would call, I would text, I would do everything in my power to request additional troops, because even during, it's one thing before, but even during, I would have been like, hey, we need to, because they had a bunch of standby troops in DC that were housed near the, there's like an arsenal or whatever over there. There's a station. I don't know exactly where it's at, but they had standby troops. They could have called them in. Or, I mean, if I was a military officer that day, and they had a bunch there, because you could see that they were in command of specific DC Guard troops, right? And if you were, and I have to be extremely careful here, and I'm not intentionally trying to say anything that would trigger, a mass workload for me. I'm really not. I'm talking specifically about nothing that would cause any issue, because I know that they were basically trying to harass and report anything I do. Like General Milley. I'm talking about General Milley, okay? And then there was another commander there. He was an aide. It was a male. And I don't even want to go into that area, but we'll just stick with General Milley. If you were an aide to General Milley, wouldn't you do everything in your power, even that day? Call Capitol Police, call governors, call, I think, what is it? In DC, the Guard technically is under the command, I don't know, I'm assuming, of the executive branch, right? Because it's a federal zone, the federal district. Wow. Because to me, that is treason. And that's more serious than anything we heard about on January 6th. And January 6th was a protest, all right? It was not anything that aligns with the definition of a coup, and these fucking idiots on the left here continue to try and like, what are they defending? I don't understand. Like, what they're defending this persecution thing where they're throwing 1,500 defendants in jail and destroying families across, like, for walking in the Capitol. What are they defending? These assholes on the left. And I think a valid comment was like, you won't understand this until it happens to you. And I think that Alex Jones said that to them a couple times during this debate. And that's very true. Like, at some point, some woman will, go and make some allegation or some false allegation, or they'll experience a divorce, or, they'll get sued, all kinds of stuff, and they won't understand this. And they think, I guess, their memory goes back like 10 years. Yeah, they're young, but even young people in a position to debate a world-class debater like Alex Jones, you would assume that they would have a greater sort of viewport into the past, right? They would, have a greater understanding of classical history, what got us to this point, even American history back to, World War I, maybe. But no, these guys, they have a worldview that basically has an elastic metric to 10 years ago. And they believe, apparently, that society is based on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, DoorDash, Uber, and that for 250 years, or however long this country has existed, that we've been able to sit in homes, relax, chill, watch TV, when the last 10 to 15 years that this country has existed, those periods of time have been dramatically and distinctly, uniquely different than at any other point in our past. I mean, it was basically like going in the 1800s to the 1900s, we had the Industrial Revolution, right? In that 20, 30 year period. And that took 20 or 30 years to industrialize the nation, or parts of the nation, like Pennsylvania, steel, New York, oil, all the stuff that we had sort of engineered and created, and all the buildings and all these major cities, like New York was pretty much planned during those periods, the city layout. That took 30 years, but in basically, like, the click of a button, we've entered the digital age. It's been so quick, and it just continues to quicken. We're like in the quickening. But yeah, so that's the worldview that these clowns have. So this is the Clay Higgins, Tucker Carlson clip. And we'll, I think I have it. Yeah, right here is where Clay kind of mentions that there were just a ton of entrapment FBI raiders in the Capitol that day trying to prosecute these protesters to create the 14th Amendment ban on Trump's ballot access.
Then the number of people that were actually outside the Capitol and it entered, we believe 200 is a conservative number. Yes, sir.
It's shocking what you're saying and confirms everyone's worst suspicions about this. It's clearly true. Did you come across any evidence that the DOD, the military, either Defense Intelligence Agency or National Guard or any part of the U.S. military played in?
Now, access to this evidence for Clay Higgins is somewhat restricted. And even though Clay Higgins is on the Oversight Committee, they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep all that evidence sealed, secreted. Whereas he had more transparency with the FBI and getting real information regarding. Plus, I mean, they kind of had boots on the ground in these Stop the Steal little patriotic groups. I don't even want to, they're not militias by any extent, but the FBI was trying to kind of define them as local militias, even though they weren't. And of course, they were surveilling everything that they were doing online, including participating in their communication channels. And I even think that extended to Discord, Facebook, obviously, but like WhatsApp, and so they were, it's really sick. I mean, it just makes me sick. I can't believe they did this to so many people, so many families. It really makes you want to cry. And you feel powerless because, I mean, and then they accuse people like Rachel Powell, a single mother of 8 children in Pennsylvania, 42, 43 years old, of committing violence that day for breaking a window. To me, that's not really a violent act. It's not a violent act. I mean, you can disagree with me, but a violent act to me is actually causing injury or harm to another person. Or, if you do property damage, to me, that's not violent unless it causes a potential injury to someone else or an actual injury to someone else. And you could argue, obviously, that breaking glass would cause you're negligent to some extent because then the glass fragments can, cut other people around there, and there's a lot of people around there. So I get that. I get it. But it's not violence towards another person. And for these people to get charged with felonies is asinine. It is mind-blowing, and it really does make me sick, and I cry about it. I've been watching a lot of these videos, and I hear these stories like Matthew Perna. Matthew Parna. We can pull it up, but for some reason I'm unable to close the tab on my other main computer, and I have this Laura Logan, Matthew Parna interview with his aunt. And I hate to admit this, but I cried watching that. Because the DOJ, he was a young guy. And then they showed this interview of him, I think it was prior to January 6th. It was like on January 5th, and he was live streaming to Facebook. Really articulate, intelligent guy, had a life ahead of him. he had tried to help people. I think he had done some volunteering. I don't know, like a Greenpeace kind of thing. He taught English in Korea or something, Vietnam. You could tell that he wanted to contribute, right? He wasn't a violent insurrectionist. And again, you know, when he was under that, he's young guy, right? So maybe he wasn't mature enough to handle that level of stress. Okay, because it's pretty stressful. And they charged him, I think, with a felony, came in, and he's in a lot of those videos too, and I think it was a lot of the media coverage too that just killed him. And see, when you go through this process, you almost have to have, not a therapist, but someone who kind of like a guardian angel, so to speak, that comes in and just kind of lays their hands on you and just lets you be still for like a year while you go through this, so you don't make any stupid decisions. And Matthew Parna made a I don't want to call it stupid, but made a decision I think he would regret if he were still alive. And that's the kind of stress he was under, and he made that decision because he felt like, you know, all hope was lost. But all hope was not lost. And I genuinely hope that maybe they name a room or something after Matthew Parna in 2025 to 2029. Because the DOJ hounded him, persecuted him, and they have blood on their hands, and they're responsible for what happened to his family. And that's just one example. Joe Biggs is another one. Now, Joe Biggs apparently wrestled with police officers. He's a former Marine. He's a combat veteran. I think he did a couple tours in Iraq. Big guy. And, you know, they tortured him. I mean, they were dieseling him around the country, sending him to all kinds of different federal prisons, and then picking him up within a day or two, and then sending him to another one, keeping him in a hot van, crippled up, without food. He was dehydrated. He had combat injuries, so he was in constant pain. They weren't giving him proper medication for his combat injuries. This is a person who, Joe Biggs, put his life on the line for this country in combat, and in payment for that sacrifice, the U.S. government tortured him even more. It's unbelievable. January 6th was a celebration, I think, of everything we've been able to learn since then, including what just came out with Clay Higgins. So God bless Clay Higgins for going on Tucker Carlson and at least exposing some more of this. Now, he said some of this, and he touched on, because he's a former cop, and I think he's a guard member in Louisiana. He touched on the fact that in these federal criminal cases that a lot of this evidence is sealed regarding the entrapment stuff, especially the fact that they had FBI assets inside the Capitol that day dressed as Trump supporters that were opening the doors and then leading people into specific areas. And because that evidence is sealed, he can't technically apparently leak it or something, or this oversight committee isn't ready to yet. I don't know. I mean, there's a couple reasons. He has the power to do that through Congress if Johnson agrees to it. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. So hopefully more of it comes out. But in terms of the military involvement, they failed to call for additional guard troops that day, and they should have. And those military officers should be held accountable. They should be kicked out of the military. They should be disciplined. There should be court-martials, drumhead proceedings. I'm checking one thing here. Okay, so I took a bunch of notes. We got that. Oh, I never talked about the Dershowitz shit. I'm moving all around to all these different topics. Yeah, okay, so we can see this. Let me just read this quickly. This is an excerpt from an article. I think it was a New York Post article. I could be wrong about that. Kelly Rutherford, when she went through a divorce child custody situation, she hired an attorney who represents himself online and on The View and multiple media appearances in mainstream media sources that he's a, quote, celebrity divorce attorney named Robert Wallach. Now, everybody knows who Robert Wallach is, right? By now. And so Wallach, no surprise here, worked with pedophile Alan Dershowitz, who has been named repeatedly in these Epstein docs. Why would anybody, knowing that now, and you know, Kelly Rutherford obviously didn't know that then when she retained Robert Wallach, celebrity divorce attorney Robert Wallach. Why would anybody retain Wallach knowing that he's a cohort to Alan Dershowitz, based on everything we've learned now from these Epstein docs? It's beyond me. I don't know how you could. But let me just read this quickly, just so we get this in the record on the stream. According to Robert Wallach, a high-powered New York divorce lawyer who, along with pedophile Alan Dershowitz, worked briefly on behalf of Rutherford. Briefly on behalf, those are keywords here, in her custody case. A mechanism outlined by Judge Bedeau in her original rulings called for a review of Gersha's efforts to get a new visa. The deadline for the visa review was January 10th, 2014. Unfortunately, Wallach said Rutherford was low on money at the time after years already spent on divorce and custody issues and did not realize she had a deadline in the visa issue. She was representing herself briefly during that period and missed the deadline. Interesting. By not complying with that deadline, says Wallach, Rutherford essentially waived her right to the visa review. So here's my main question. If Wallach was representing her during periods of this family court proceeding, and he knew that Kelly Rutherford had to comply with any other judicial orders or rulings or proceedings, if it was an administrative hearing regarding the visa issue or whatever it was, why didn't he make sure that he took care of it, or that he communicated this very clearly to Kelly Rutherford, who was a client of his, that she needed to get this in order to positively impact the underlying family court proceeding for custody of the child? Now, Wallach actually lost custody probably because of some of these issues that I just listed. The fact that he wasn't clearly communicating with Kelly Rutherford, that he wasn't appearing on her behalf potentially in some of these administrative hearings, which were sort of like parallel proceedings that he needed to make sure were in order to achieve a positive outcome in the custody battle that she was experiencing with her ex-husband. Dummy Wallach. Dummy Wallach, who works with pedophile Alan Dershowitz. All right. Let's go back to the Oh, your boy Burmis, the Burmis Brigade,
have you, and
was on, quite frankly. Talk about a guy who's gaining subscribers, quite frankly. Does a live stream every night. Low key, chill. Low quality, just like, you know, anybody without a budget, so you know it's genuine. It's authentic. It's giving you his real opinion, not bought and paid for, like Nikki Haley or some of these other streamers now. They're, you know, whatever. But your boy Burmis was on, quite frankly, I don't know.
Listen, it's great to have you, and that federal.
So here's the thing too: is Burmis is from New York. Quite frankly, I think he's in New Jersey. Could be wrong about that. Burmis has got this new studio. It's a baller studio, to be honest with you, but I'm very confused because where did Burmis get all this new money for the studio? Plus, it's called Amp News. I can't find anything on Amp News. What's going on there, Burmis? And I've never seen anyone actually in studio with Burmis yet, despite the fact that Burmis has claimed otherwise, that he was going to actually have or host guests in his studio in Iowa. And Burmis completely changed the lower third here, you know, from the Burmis Brigade to making sense of the madness. Is this, because like I can't find Amp News, is this, I don't get it. Like, what's going on? Burmis hasn't accurately described any of this. And I think I asked once, but we have no indication that Burmis is actually going to answer. So I don't know what's going on with Burmis, and if Burmis was kind of preparing for this January 1st date, because he first leaked a bunch of Epstein docs 10 years ago, so he's kind of been on this. And, you know, it's whatever. But your boy, quite frankly, has still got the amateur graphics going. Love it. All right. Got the chat replay up. They won't give me a chat replay on YouTube. They've censored me so harshly. All right, let me talk about this January 6th bullshit. I took a bunch of notes. Let me grab those. Might be a little bit scattered. I have not organized my notes. Make sure this is appearing on stream. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Okay, so I thought, you know, I already explained kind of my overall takeaways from this situation. It's kind of a TKO in the first 5 minutes. But, you know, I did like the fact that when Alex Jones kind of did his shtick, you know, interrupting and making a loud statement, the Krasenstein brothers were kind of laughing, you know, which is good. But Alex hurt his hand at one point. He was banging on his desk, and then he was kind of like holding it for a period. I don't know. Maybe you got like a little bruise there, soft bruise. Here's an interesting question too that was posed during this debate. Like, okay, so if Trump lost in 2020, which he didn't, we know the election was rigged and stolen, and you know they continue to talk about some of the tactics they were using to rig the election, including the fact that they were dumping ballots overnight. and the mail-in situation in many of these states, including Georgia, and then they were stuffing ballots. But overall, what I think the overarching rigging of the 2020 election was the fact that the COVID leak that happened in 2020 caused all these states to move towards mail-in ballots. That was the real rig. That's how they won. And I am not making any untoward allegations regarding the reasons or inferring why COVID was leaked from that lab. I'm not making any of those allegations. Whether it was incompetence, which probably, if you were to look at it from a probability perspective, speaking of probabilities, that would probably be the most probable outcome. But you can't rule out any other argument. Anyways, meanwhile, that was used as a political opportunity to then have these mail-in ballots come in, right? And all this other bullshit. So that was, I mean, everything else to me is kind of like water under the bridge. All right? But according to the Krasenstein brothers and Dougal on the left, if Trump really lost in 2020, again, which Trump did not lose in 2020, and I'm being serious about this. This isn't parody. I'm 100% serious. You know, I'm from Minnesota. I've lived in western Wisconsin for a really long time, and I consider this area Minnesota. It's not really Wisconsin. I live 20 miles from where I grew up. I live like 50 miles from where I was born, so it's like the same area. So I've watched all these elections, right? Every single presidential election that I can ever remember, even as a kid, I'd try and watch at least until as late as I possibly could. You know, when I was a kid, you know, I can't, maybe my mom try to limit, set a bedtime, but, you know, I think there was, like, when I was 17, I think there was the, 18 maybe, the Bush, there was a Bush-Gore situation. Was at 2000, yeah, in 2000, right? I remember that very clearly. I remember that was all the hanging chads in Florida, right? So it was all based on the outcome in Florida, and the Supreme Court actually had to rule on whether they could continue counting these ballots that were considered hanging chad ballots. That was really close, all right? There weren't like major changes in the votes overnight, or really in the next 2 weeks. A couple thousand votes here, a couple thousand votes there. But what happened in Wisconsin, specifically in Wisconsin, because Wisconsin was kind of a battleground state. Because Minnesota is, I mean, if you really want to get into election misconduct, the Somalians were engaging in so much of it during 2020. It's unbelievable with the mail-in ballots. They never prosecuted any of them. They were going around to Little Mogadishu, the kind of tenements that they have, using Somalian names, people who have been deceased, mailing those ballots in. They were just generating and falsifying information, mailing those ballots in. And they were paid to do it too. None of them were ever prosecuted. And why did they use Somalians? Because it it's a difficult culture to understand what's going on in because you have to speak Somalian, so it's somewhat insulated, right? And so there's that. And I mean, the Somalians don't give a shit. They'll just do whatever. They're from a third world country. I mean, they came here from tin huts, all right? But there's a lot of other reasons. But yes, there's that. But so Minnesota was already, okay, it's a Biden state, whatever. Wasn't close. In Wisconsin, Trump was leading. And I went to sleep, I remember very vividly that night, around 10 or 11. I was going to sleep for 4 or 5 hours just to kind of check. And I'm really not a super political person. But, I just watched I don't know, I want to know what's going on. So I woke up at, 3 or 4 in the morning, and I checked online to see what was going on. And it was like a shift of 700,000 votes. And if you look on the graph, it goes straight up. 99% of the ballots in favor of Biden, all coming in from Milwaukee. Not possible. Honestly, not possible. And I'm like, okay, this is all jacked up. What the fuck is going on? So, YouTube will probably strike my channel for telling the truth about the election, but fuck them. Who cares? And see, the other thing is Dinesh D'Souza with 2,000 Meals did a fantastic job of talking about some of the forensic evidence related to the cell phone geo-tagging or triangulation that they were doing with the ballot drops, that they were stuffing ballots. A couple of those people, I think, maybe had been investigated for election fraud, and I don't think any of them were actually prosecuted. And they refused to prosecute them, obviously, again, because they were trying to insulate Biden and the Biden administration and Democrats in general. So, I mean, I thought that was a really fantastic sort of presentation. But if Trump really did lose in 2020, why are they so scared of Trump running in 2024? You think that they would love that. They would, Trump, come on, run, because we can beat you, right? Turn off the space heater here. But, they're trying to take Trump off the ballot. The only reason that they're trying to take Trump off the ballot and then continue to churn this January 6th narrative that it was an insurrection again, which is like, it's comical. Absolutely comical. Parody in real life. Is because they're obviously scared of Trump. There's something about President Trump being in office. I mean, there's many reasons, of course, but they wouldn't be taking, Jenna Griswold, who's a bizarre person. She does these interviews and her eyes are all over the place. It's like she's high on something. I probably shouldn't say this, but Agent X said that Jenna Griswold is the kind of person who, if you visited her house, it would smell of just a bunch of cat pee and expired fruit. That's the kind of person she's childless. Talk about Team Humanity, Elon Musk. Jenna Griswold doesn't have kids. She's treating the country as if she had like a couple toddlers and she needs to tell the toddlers what to do at all times to protect them as their mother. That's how she's treating this whole ballot process with Trump. Oh, we had another piece of evidence here I gotta show. Shit. Fuck. Your boys. Your boys. See if we can see it on stream. We can. All right. I changed my mic arm too. I like it a little better. I can lean back. I can lean back a little bit. I gotta get a little teleprompter here for some of my notes, so I'm more organized during the stream. I do have a little monitor I can put over here. Anyways, this is a screenshot of a tweet from some dude named Jack Danger. Breaking. Although President Donald Trump's name will appear on the Colorado Republican primary ballot due to the Supreme Court's willingness to hear the case, the Colorado Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, said she will not count any ballots that have Donald Trump's name on them. Thoughts? Now, in that decision, it was the Ballard Spahr trial court judge in Colorado who originally presided over the case and got appealed up to the state Supreme Court. And I don't know, I didn't check it out because I'm lazy. But I read the decisions, both of them. I read the trial court one, and then we went over some of the Colorado Supreme Court decision, I think, on this stream, and I read parts of it. And what struck me is that the decision states that they will not count any write-in votes for President Trump, but now they're treating the regular election of President Trump effectively kind of within that same, I don't know, I guess they're just gonna fucking wash Trump votes out. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Now, whether or not this is interlocutory appeal and the stay, I don't know if it's dissolved or what, with the U.S. Supreme Court taking the case, where then the Supreme Court could issue an interim order that would then order Jenna Griswold to at least stay that decision or make sure that these votes were counted in the primary ballot process. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But when the U.S. Supreme Court took the case on January 5th, you would assume that then any decision it makes would then be superseding of Jenna Griswold. So you can only hope that the U.S. Supreme Court steps up here and smacks Jenna Griswold down for some of this nonsense. Now, obviously, 99.9% chance, probability speaking, because nothing is certain in life, that the Supreme Court says that the 14th Amendment, Section 5, confers those powers to Congress and not state officials. Moreover, I think it's Section 3 that clearly outlines or rather fails to identify that the insurrection clause applies to the presidency. So that's another issue. And moreover, Trump has never been charged, I believe, now with, any of these sort of insurrection related crimes, right? Like treason, for example. So any of these kangaroo sort of indictments, that's a bad term. I gotta find a different term for these indictments. Just ridiculous indictments that have now come. So, I forgot to mention. So switching all over the place here, but so this is a pattern that they do when they really want to fuck you, and they've done this to me. They hit you on the federal level and they hit you on the state level. Why do they do that? Because they want to make sure that you're fully fucked, that you can't get a pardon from a governor, as well as, to get any sort of pardon from the federal system, it would have to come from the president, right? So there's that. Plus there's just different dueling state interests versus federalism in federal court, and they don't want to technically interfere with each other. I mean, we have doctrines that provide for the separation of state interests versus federal interests. I mean, you can argue younger in federal court, but the chances of you ever obtaining an exception under younger are nil. They've done, they like throw a bone out like once a year to someone, basically. I mean, they'll enjoin prosecutions and so forth, depending on the standing of the case or whatever and the merits. But once things start rolling and you can argue that the state is violating a fundamental right, in this case, for example, the interests of the executive branch, yada, yada, yada. I mean, you could go and do a deep dive. And the thing is, President Trump has executive immunity from any of these allegations that Jack Smith is bringing in federal court, right? And because President Trump is Donald Trump, they're saying he doesn't have executive immunity. So what they're trying to do is basically rewrite history and saying that President Trump never won in 2016. He was never president of the country. So therefore, he doesn't have executive privilege. That's what they're saying. And now, obviously, that's insane. It's crazy. President Trump won in 2016. And this is retaliatory in that it's basically saying, oh, well, because according to them, Trump lost in 2020. So it's almost like taunting President Trump, saying, oh, well, you're not president. You never were president because, we have this whole propaganda scheme going against you because we have captured and owned. The other thing is the mainstream media is mostly funded by various government entities. They get, like, when you talk about Facebook, the only reason Facebook is propped up right now is because it gets paid by the federal government. And that's not exposed. And the one reason that Twitter was propped up for so long is because you could see how much money they were getting, and they're pushing corporations to supplement some of that through advertising dollars, but they were getting a ton of money from the federal government. Anyways, back to this. So will this get rectified? Will the Supreme Court smack down Jenna Griswold and count any of these primary ballots for President Trump? Of course they will, but I think it'll get elongated, delayed, and then Jenna Griswold will try and squeeze as much positive or whatever propaganda media coverage that she can get out of it, basically doing every single interview possible on MSNBC, CNBC, NBC, ABC. It's like a trial run, right? Because she wants to gain a better position, I'm assuming, in whatever administration she foresees is going to actually win whenever Democrats gain some level of power in this country again. And I think it's going to be a while because I think people are really fucking fed up. And I think people have capacity for forgiveness. And I think that, I'll get spiritual here. I think the reason that this is happening to so many people in the positions that they are is because God knows that these people will offer them forgiveness. I'm a very forgiving person. And I try and, I try my best to abide by Judeo-Christian values whenever I possibly can. Do I make mistakes? All the fucking time. Have I been persecuted for First Amendment exercise for the past 10 years, accused of every single fucking crime, A through Z in the book? Absolutely. All right? Nothing I have done has ever been criminal. All right? I could go into the bullshit that they've done against me. So this pattern of hitting people on state levels as well as federal levels is extremely malicious. It's targeted harassment. They're doing it to President Trump. They've done it to me. Much smaller scale. I mean, look, I told Agent X that I'd never talk about my legal issues on the stream if he was ever on it. And I wanted to respect that. So, but, I'll just be honest. So when President Trump retweeted me, those fucking asses, they'll just revolve I shouldn't talk. I'm not going to talk about it. But they'll just drum up shit from like the 10-year span of time. And they'll just be like, oh, well, in 2017, so in I'll say this, and this is all pled in legal proceedings in federal court where I filed various lawsuits. In 2016 or 2017, They swatted my house here in Hudson, Wisconsin. Mind you, I'm a pacifist. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I personally am against weapons for myself or guns or anything like that because of one reason, because of one teaching. And I'm gonna pull this up. I said I was gonna thought about this internally. I want to pull this up on YouTube very quickly. Oh, my leg fell asleep. Yikes. I think it's this one. Maybe this is it. I have to sign in. Fine. To sign in. Wait, so this is crazy. You have to sign in. Talk about censorship. So this is crazy. The movie by Mel Gibson, Passion of the Christ, 2004. This is a clip. And Mel Gibson, you know, it's a movie about Jesus Christ. It's about the Bible, and you have to sign in to see it because it's deemed too extreme. My leg is killing me right now because I lost some circulation when I sitting the way that I was. That is just nuts, isn't it? I mean, they'll allow the LGBTQ nonsense, but they won't allow a little clip when Jesus gets arrested here in the Garden of I'm terrible at pronouncing things. Yosemite. So I can't believe you have to sign in. This is not okay. Here it is. Right. It's not it. Come on. Oh, I gotta sign in. You gotta sign in. Maybe we can see it here. Remember, it's when Peter cuts off the ear of the Roman soldier.
Should we talk about this later?
Move out!
What spell, but we have men out on the wall.
Right here. Here we go.
Matthew is safe, doing well.
This isn't.
He's back at the camp.
Passion of Christ is the actual one.
Jesus, no! Are you armed? I am not, but some of my followers are.
Well,
tell your followers to drop their weapons and step back 10
Let's
cubits.
see if it shows it. I haven't seen this version.
May I say goodbye to my Ima? Mater mea.
Yes.
has got to be it.
James and John, drop your weapons and step back 10 cubits.
It's where Peter slices the ear of the Roman soldier who's trying to arrest Jesus. So maybe they have like a different version in this particular. This is all like a cucked version. The Chosen is all cucked. It's not really an accurate representation. So Passion of the Christ has a better representation of what here. Maybe this has got it. Oh yeah. Yeah, right here.
Marcus! Who بدينا؟ نزل! الأشكاليل هيك دي أنت لحظك حتى خليلان لك
So that's the prophecy before. I think that Mary had. Oh my gosh. I should have had the timestamps for this. I apologize. I've just been so lazy today. Oh yeah. Well, anyways, Peter, everyone knows Peter pulls the sword and then Jesus tells him to put it down after he slices the ear off, and then Jesus performs a miracle to replace the ear, and the soldier is mystified for a period of time and realizes that his ear has just been recreated after experiencing, pain for 10, 15 seconds, or however long that was, and realizes that a miracle has just been performed. And what that symbolizes is, from God, this is a message that you need to listen to the fact that weapons and stuff like this, because Jesus said, put it down, put the sword down, right? And the cucked version of The Chosen kind of has that, where all the disciples put the swords down before the Roman soldiers come in. It's all symbolism, and if you're really actively hearing the truth, what that means is that Judeo-Christian values mean that you do not use weapons in this life. Now, there's another version where Christ is preaching that he's going to come back and he's not going to bring peace when he comes back, but Christ hasn't come back yet. And so until that happens, speaking purely from a religious, textual, historical narrative provided in the Bible, right? Book of Matthew, in Revelation as well. That although, I understand the Second Amendment, I understand government tyranny, I understand exactly what our founding fathers, James Madison, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, knew when they created the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and basically wrote a realist version of the fact that government tyranny will happen again, and that the only way to defend against it is effectively kind of like, the right to bear arms, right? But that's a right that you can exercise, but I've chosen never to exercise that particular right because of this, which has been instilled in me forever, since I've been a very, very young child. And I don't know why, it's just intuitive to me. But it's we go back to the coup situation and all this stuff. I think what we're really talking about is that, especially considering, you know, what our founding fathers of this country went through, and to a more recent scope, you know, what combat veterans went through in World War II, World War I, Vietnam. I mean, Vietnam wasn't a war of defense against liberty by any means. It was a globalist, self-perpetuated war that was false flag through the Gulf of Tonkin. You had Admiral Stephen Morrison, who was in charge of the fleet out there near Vietnam, and they claimed that North Vietnamese submarine had fired a torpedo, which did not happen. And they fed this to the mainstream media, who of course regurgitated it to the American population, and then there was widespread protest regarding the draft, yada yada yada. And you know, it's pretty much continued ever since World War II. We've had these bullshit wars. We've gained nothing from them except pain, hostility, tons of debt. We've incurred, any generation post World War II has incurred the biggest debt from this globalist sort of regime, the weight of that put on us. And it only has intensified. We're like in a vice right now, right? You know, and I just, you know, what I've experienced being a pacifist and exercising my First Amendment rights, like for example in 2016, and they raided my, I'm getting back to my original point, geez, in a very, very roundabout way. They raided my house with a SWAT team because they claimed that I had posted, and this is according to their, I'm not saying I did or didn't, I'm just giving you what they claimed in various legal documents. They claimed that I had, after an appellate decision came out, wrote a Facebook post. Public Facebook post, not a reply to anyone, just a public Facebook post, where I complained about it. Peacefully, lawfully, again, as a pacifist who has never threatened anyone in their entire, I've never threatened anyone in my entire life, okay? But because of the level of persecution that I am specifically under, they raided my house with a SWAT team within days. 2 years, more than 2 years. But they claim after this all began, and they claim that the Facebook post somehow, it was just ridiculous. It was like the most outrageous bullshit ever. Now, swatting is always kind of in the news, but it's been in the news a lot lately with, like Loomer got swatted the other day, Jack Posobiec, I mean, the list could go on. I think AJ, Alex Jones, gets swatted a lot. And I'm not trying to bring coverage or attention to this event in 2016. I filed a federal lawsuit against the people who I thought were responsible at the time. I have additional information now. But it's unbelievable what this country has turned into, that you can't even express your opinion, exercise your First Amendment rights without hardcore fear that some tyrannical agent of a local jurisdictional government will violate your Fourth Amendment rights, your right to due process, which bind on various like Fifth Amendment, all kinds of shit. Come in, take everything that you've ever worked for, destroy your career. And this pattern plays out over and over and over again. And what has now been coming out in all these legal documents is that they're just trying to, in 2016, I mean, the people I were dealing with, like, they knew that that I had supported Donald Trump's campaign. They knew that. Was I like a hardcore MAGA person? No, absolutely not. Do I consider myself a hardcore MAGA person? No, absolutely not. So anyways, fuck, I totally forgot what I was talking about. But I think God puts these people in these positions because they can offer forgiveness, all right? I offer forgiveness to people. I do. Because I don't think... Now, there's some people who actually committed very serious acts that are unforgivable, and you can never forgive those. I don't even think Jesus would forgive some of those acts. I know that Jesus would not forgive those acts, but that's, again, not for me to judge. And evil exists. That's all I can say. I've tried to understand it, intellectualize it, be compassionate about certain people's positions. And the only thing that I can discern from all of this is that evil exists, and it would not exist to the level that it does if we didn't have these tyrannical agents of the government who are willing to carry out the tyranny orders from whatever bureaucracy that they're part of. We would not have any of this if they weren't willing to do that. And this is exactly, if you read a Harvard dissertation by I think it's Daniel Goldhagen. I didn't have to look that up, but I was thinking about looking it up. It's a good book, actually. I think it's Hitler's Willing Executioners is the name of the book, if I remember. Again, I'm getting it just so I can show it on screen, but I remember this directly from my time spent reading the book. So yeah, I'm going to pull it up on Amazon here. Okay. The thesis of this book, and a large portion of it, was drawn from Goldhagen's dissertation at Harvard. And I think this has kind of been materialized in many different rhetorical accounts of what happened in Germany in the years preceding the rise of the Nazis, as well as during World War II. And I think Goldhagen, again, this is from my memory, and we could probably find it in here. I'm not reading it. But there was a, quote, virulent anti-Semitism present in Germany, largely due to the fact that the Versailles Treaty, after World War I, levied huge tariffs, huge payments to the Allies, to the West of Germany, so France and England, because of World War I and the fact that they ultimately lost in World War I, even though it was sort of like a neutral sort of situation. And the economy had been shattered post World War I. Hitler rose from these flames, right? Virulent anti-Semitism. The only reason all of this was able to be carried out, and trying to figure out like why, like what, you know, ultimately what was it? And it was the fact that you had individual agents of the Nazi government, SS, the Wehrmacht, Luftwaffe, who, and this is mostly the SS, right? Who conducted activities domestically, operated domestically, carried out all the, you know, persecution against Jews and gypsies and homosexuals and mentally disabled individuals, threw them in camps, killed them. And yeah, I mean, it came down to those individual decisions, boots on the ground, right? So basically law enforcement. The only reason that we have that level of persecution in this country now, especially as it relates to censorship, is because we have clowns like that who are effectively the same sort of virulent anti-humanity types who don't believe in your fundamental rights and obey any order that they're given because they're not living. They're virulently anti-human. If I were in that position and I looked at all the evidence, and to some degree they are compartmentalized. I get it. They might not have all the information. They're just told to do something and they do it. And that's the way they build these bureaucracies so that they can kind of get away with it. But at some point, especially when they're sued, they figure everything out. And if I was someone who carried out one of these J6 bullshit SWAT raids or whatever on someone who just walked into the Capitol, I would be ashamed of myself. I would be utterly ashamed. And I would not only quit immediately, but I would just be exposing as much of it as I possibly could because, again, you know, the only reason that tyranny exists is because you have clowns like that willing to carry it out. I'm not alleging or trying to say that we're at the point where, you know, we're at a level where something like this could happen. But man, I mean, with the January 6th stuff and everything that I've personally experienced over the last 10 years, with these fuckers coming in and claiming that you have no First Amendment rights and that they can, you know, it's the same thing with the COVID and the lockdown, the mandates, you know, like, oh, you're not wearing a mask, let's throw you in jail, let's SWAT your house. You're complaining about the COVID mandates and lockdowns, let's raid your business, let's shut you down. So it's finally out. It's out in the open. Evil is out in the open. And these are the sick people too, who then are like cheering and celebrating Ashley Babbitt's death, which everyone has seen many times. I think I was watching it live actually on a stream or something. I'm about 100% sure I was watching it live. And then it was surreal. I mean, you were hoping that, you know, maybe she got shot in the arm or something, but you saw just a bunch of blood and she was just, you could tell right away. It was clear as day. Tragic. Again, I'm not lessening the fact that maybe she shouldn't have gone through that window, right? But should she have deserved to get executed for getting in front of 300,000 people who are pushing towards the Capitol? And yeah, she made decisions to put herself in that position, but for the people that cheer and celebrate, her execution is beyond sick. And it reminds me of the Germans who carried out the tyranny prior to World War II. It really does. So my first instinct is to think of Goldhagen. Okay, so it's pretty late now. Got 3 people watching. Oh, I was gonna go through all the... I'll do this probably tomorrow then. Let me see if there's any other things I can kind of pick out. Oh, not showing me now, fuckers. Let me refresh my communication thing here. Okay, here we go. I mean, they made some really, these Krasenstein dudes and Dougal made some really outrageous statements. I mean, it seems like they have faith in the judicial system or something. I don't know why. Like, I don't know what they're trying to defend. Are they trying to defend like staying at home and streaming all day? I mean, they were blaming Ashley Babbitt. The Pentagon blocked Trump from getting additional National Guard troops, according to Dougal. It's true. They partly blocked the military-industrial complex, strategized in a way that allowed them to at least have some plausible deniability in saying, oh, well, you know, we didn't necessarily... And I'm not... Well, I don't even want to get into that. You know, and they continue to say Trump judges in sentencing. There's minimum sentencing guidelines in state and federal court. It's not like... It doesn't matter if it's a you know, an Obama judge or a Trump judge. It's not like they can skip around the minimum sentencing guidelines. And these fuckers are so stupid. There's a lot of talk about Ray Epps. And Dougal completely misrepresented the whole January 6th committee testimony related to Ray Epps. Ray Epps testified that he did, in fact, send a text message to his nephew where he said in the text message that he, quote, orchestrated the protests that day. Dougal tried to claim that Ray Epps never testified to that because, first of all, the transcript came out and I think part of it was redacted. So there's that. And he testified that he sent the text message. He may not have actually recited the same words into the record. I don't know. I don't have the transcript in front of me and I'm too lazy to get it, but it's out there. But everybody knows and has seen this text message, and we can find that very, very quickly. Harder and harder for Google to memory hole some of this stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of interesting questions about Ray Epps, like why wasn't he charged similarly to all the other January 6th defendants, particularly considering the fact that he was numero uno on that front line that day. Yeah, I'm just reading all my notes, and none of it really now matters very much. I mean, Glenn Greenwald understands how the system works. Well, and they brought up the BLM riots a lot. All right, so I actually know a lot about that because I live close to Minneapolis. I'm from Minnesota. Very familiar with that area, like the Minnehaha Lake liquor store that is famous in a lot of these photos. I think End Wokeness posted a photo today that got like 3 million views, and out of one of the 4 photos he posted was that, and it's like one of that very famous photo of the entire liquor store, and we could probably grab it here. Let's see. Let's get it. God, these guys tweet so much. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. A lot of it is just nonsense. Just fucking nonsense. Yeah, well, the other thing is like this cop, Michael Bird. What the hell's going on here? Oh, wow. So this is the actual picture that day of him pulling out his Glock and shooting Ashley Babbitt. What was he thinking? I think he just really wanted to do that. I think he was like itching for an opportunity just to shoot someone. Totally evil. Here it is. This is America. All right, so this liquor store. I've been to. This is America. Before it burned down a number of times. It's in Minneapolis.
Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping up. This is America.
These were the kinds of Antifa types that I had to deal with in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. This is what I was up against.
Slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping up. This is America. This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping up.
Child Gambino in the background. And then we got Statutory Hall. Twitter's hopefully Elon Musk is probably fixing this with his team of developers, but their video player is all fucked. YouTube, you have like the timestamp thing. You got a lot of other interesting things. YouTube's video player is very good, and if anything, the Twitter video player needs to get much better in order to remain competitive. But let's go back to what we were at, which is right here. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's right. Washington crossing the Delaware. Right here. Love it. All right. See, I don't know what's going on here. Their data center sucks. Come on, serve me up the content. Come on. I'm an edge node. Well, all right. So they don't want to show me Statutory Hall. There's another one in here, though. I wonder if it was... Yeah, this is the one I saw this morning.
This is America.
Same one, same liquor store, and then we have... yeah, that was the Arby's nearby. I've ate there many times. Burned down. There's a Wells Fargo that burned down. Some Somalian threw a firebomb at it. I can't even tell you how many times I've banked at that particular Wells Fargo. I worked at a corporate Wells Fargo, very close to that area, like literally a block away. There were several elderly people, black women, who had their savings deposited there at that particular Wells Fargo that burned down, and they were without money for a significant period of time. I mean, it's just, outrageous. I think, what is this? Maybe this was Minneapolis. And then they're not even showing the 3rd precinct here. This is Virginia here, right? So the BLM stuff in Minneapolis, this is just like par for the course, you know? I had been so used to and kind of almost desensitized to this level of bullshit where these guys, you know, none of them probably have, maybe 1 or 2 of them have been prosecuted. Maybe the guy who threw the firebomb in here has been prosecuted. I don't know. I did watch a couple of cases that came through. They prosecuted like 10 people in the federal court in Minnesota. And, you know, boom. You know, and then meanwhile, if you complain or you post something, you know, exercise your First Amendment rights to criticize any of this, they'll raid your house with the SWAT team like they did to me effectively. Like I was basically up against Antifa. Antifa that's embedded in, you know, their whole operation. So if you criticize them, they'll destroy your life, destroy you in the media, of course, SWAT your house, engage in all kinds of targeted harassment against you, your family. You know, my mom was having medical issues at the time. I would have been able to provide some form of assistance in the way of financial assistance to her. During that, my mother died as a result because of the stress of what they were doing to my family, me, and, you know, my family and I. So I have a lot of sympathy for the January 6th defendants who are experiencing kind of a similar level of bullshit. Now, I didn't do anything even remotely close to any of that. I just fucking 2016 or 17, they accused me of posting, I'm serious, something like this, basically like this. Oh, you can't see it. Gotta zoom out. What the hell? Why isn't it? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Okay, something like this. Oh yeah, let's SWAT your house for that. That's basically what they did to me in 2016, where they accused me of posting something that basically criticized their whole op. So it happens. So you get your life destroyed because you're exposing them, allegedly. And these dudes get there's you know, no accountability for anyone else. No one in the who failed to order additional security for January 6th, military officers like Milley, General Milley. No accountability for the BLM protesters here. And for some reason, these fucking morons on the left here, Dougal and the Krasenstein brothers, although, I mean, the Krasenstein brothers are some of the least articulate people I've ever seen in my life. I have no idea how they can even have followers. They're obviously Soros funded. They're the dumbest, most low IQ people I've ever, and I'm being kind to them. I really am. But I had more respect for them because I already knew that about them, but I had more respect for them because, and they were just showing up to debate Alex Jones is like the dumbest thing you could ever do. I just knew it from there. Like, that's like, you're going in and you're trying to debate a world-class debater, not just a world-class debater like Alex Jones. It just is so fucking stupid. Dershowitz can't even debate Alex Jones. I mean, like, and I'm not, and I think Dershowitz is an idiot too, by the way. Actually, I don't think he's an idiot. I think he's got Asperger's. He's like an autist. He's just very, He's not, Dershowitz is also not very articulate. He's not a presentational lawyer, as I would say. Anyways, who's someone I think that would be a good debate? I can't even think of someone off the top of my head. Like, you know, you got to get someone in there like Vivek or Trump to debate Alex Jones if you're going to actually challenge Alex Jones. That's the only way. They brought in low IQ Krasenstein brothers who can barely get a sentence out. Again, I'm being very kind to them. But I did have more respect because I knew that about them. They were, except for they took some cheap shots at the end, which was just like, what are you doing to Alex Jones? Because this is his studio. You know, you never, if you pick a fight with someone, you never fight within their jurisdiction. So I already knew it was over then. And they just flew to Austin to do this. But they were laughing and they seemed nice until they started taking some cheap shots because they knew that they were losing very badly. So they were basically throwing Hail Mary punches because they were desperate, really. It was kind of Darren Beatty, that's right, from Revolver.news, off the top of my head. Now I can remember. I've relaxed a little bit. It was a little bit humiliating for these dudes to watch these other guys just basically get destroyed in this debate. Because they must have felt kind of bad for them. But Dougal is so arrogant. I don't know. This dude right here. And he shows up like wearing this kind of, he's like a, you know, can't even shave. Can't even get a haircut. All right. So I'm going to end the stream by playing The Best Is Yet to Come again. The best is yet to come. I'm going to turn Spotify off while we play this.
Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
Is the best yet to come? In 2025? Are we going to fix this country? Are we going to get things rolling again? Are we going to hold people accountable? The individuals who have destroyed our families, destroyed our lives, bankrupted us, stolen our homes from us, put us on the street. Stealing our fundamental rights, like our rights to free speech. We're going to hold those people accountable.
If you and I have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts is morally right, we'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Every time
I'm gonna look in the mirror,
all these lines in my
face getting clearer.
The past
is gone. Dust it down.
Isn't that the way?
Everybody, you gotta lose to know how to win. To know how to win. Day one released the JFK files.
Half my life's
In both written pages.
living love
From fools and from sages. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. Exactly. You know who you are. You know what you've done. You know what you're capable of. Only you know yourself and those closest to you.
You know it's true. All the things come back to you. Sing with me, sing for the year, sing for the laugh, sing for the tear. Sing with me, just for today, maybe tomorrow. Take you away.
Dream until your dream come true. Oh, they got Ryan in there. There we go. I love that dance.
As long as
that's like my dance too. It's like a white male dance. Love it.
the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve. The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. And that's a Frank Sinatra cover of another song that was written. It's best known as a Frank Sinatra song. The best is yet to come. We will never, ever, ever give up. Okay. I will see you tomorrow morning, probably. It is already kind of in the morning now, but I'll probably see you around 9 or 10. We'll see. Maybe even in the afternoon. We'll see what pops up on the social medias. Oh, I also have a Discord, so I should post a link there at some point. But yeah, Command HQ Discord, find that. Chat away. Find the ending slide. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching Command HQ with Brooke and Agent X. We'll see you next time.